Experimenting with gouache paints and acrylic paints. They're both interesting and have different values, but what I found most interesting is that I can put obscene amount of water into some kind of gouache based paint, which is interesting because I would never put that much in acrylic because it just drips everywhere and gets into a mess unless it's on the brush. Even on the brush, it's better to dry it out because for acrylic it turns into a mess when it's wet. But for something like this, I have not dealt with that same problem. But the bad part is that it turns flat everywhere I go with this. Like if I put something like this, it will dry up like that, which is like completely flat. You can't feel any texture. While in acrylic, you can build up texture no matter what. Like it's like a hard building supply. The good part is about Another good part about gouache is that you can clean it up by putting some wet paper towel. Even if that is dry, I can just clean it up with if it's gouache. Although if it's not gouache and if some kind of acrylic, it can only be cleaned with that method if it isn't dry. If it's dry, then it's good. You have to use alcohol to clean it off, which turns it to a whole mess, and I don't really like to use it. So that's another interesting part about gouache. I can literally, if I make a mistake, I don't have to cover it in white and do it again. I could just mix and mix and mix, even though it turns to a mess. And at that point, you probably want to clean everything up, and you can because it's a water-based solution. So I'm guessing you could theoretically just clean it off with water, and you'll be fine. I mean, this is gouache, right? Gouache is some kind of water base, it looks like, that can be pulled out of a canvas with just water. I think, at least, because when I clean up with this, it works even if it's dry. And for acrylic, that's impossible. And even if it doesn't come out completely, you can just cover up with white and it'll be good as new. I mean, so you can reuse that canvas more easily with gouache than if I was using acrylics, which acrylics are permanent and more stable, yes, probably, because water cannot react with it. Although the problem with that is that if you make a mistake, you have to cover it all up and redo it. But I gotta admit, acrylic has probably the better texture because that looks like texture, that's just water. And that looks flat, but it will turn into this. This is a flat tone that really is just flat. I can't, everything else has some kind of texture because it's acrylic, but that has nothing.